Hey fam, and welcome to the Happily Ever Active podcast, powered by Fit for the Magic, where Disney magic meets health and wellness. I'm Stephen Kabibi, your friendly personal healthcare companion, and I help travelers like you physically prep for your next vacation so that you can walk more, hurt less, and enjoy the magic without burnout. Today, I want to talk about the invisible battles guests face when they visit the Disney parks. We're going to discuss the old adage of why you should not judge a book by its cover when you see someone stand up out of their wheelchair and walk to their next ride, the actual science behind invisible pain, and why you should not wait for a diagnosis to use a mobility aid if you truly need one. Find everything, including my pocketbook guide, Disney Ready, your pain-free park survival guide, over at fitforthemagic.com. And if you learned something useful on this episode, please share the show and tell a friend. Okay, here we go. Allow me to start with a story that's very near and dear to my heart. It involves my late aunt. So last spring, she was visiting Orlando for the very first time with my uncle, and naturally, my wife and I, being the big Disney fans that we are, took her to Disney World. At that time, though, if you had seen my aunt, you would have noticed some of the best features about her, like how she always greets us with a massive smile, or her excitement knowing that she just dipped her feet in the beautiful beaches along the Gulf, or how she always found some sort of way to make fun of my uncle for being late or forgetful. Now, to any unsuspecting person walking down Main Street, USA, my aunt was a beautiful, healthy-looking 50-year-old woman enjoying her time in Florida. What you would not have noticed was that she was battling late-stage liver cancer, the type that, well, the medicine that she was using caused her body to develop blisters on her feet that would make it painful to even take 20 steps. The type of cancer that, well, she needed to start her mornings later and her nights early just because she was so fatigued. It's the type of cancer that ended up taking her away from us no more than 10 months after this trip. Because of what you didn't see, we decided to rent a wheelchair for her to give her the ability to experience the magic of 2 Disney parks in one day. We were able to show her the awesome wildlife at Animal Kingdom and the cool merchandise that you can find at Mitsukoshi Department Store at Epcot. If you'd have walked past us that day, though, you wouldn't have seen a diagnosis written on her forehead. You wouldn't have seen the cellular level exhaustion that was caused by her cancer medications. You just would have seen a very excited woman in a wheelchair going across Disney World. The thing is, we as a society have been conditioned to expect visible proof of disability, a cast, a sling, or even advanced age. We look for the so-called visual evidence that justifies the use of a mobility aid. But as we learned that day at Epcot with my aunt and my uncle, the evidence isn't always so obvious. So why do we even talk about this on a health and wellness podcast? Well, because as a doctor of physical therapy, I see a very big disconnect between what people feel inside and what they show on the outside every single day. Let's jump into the science for a quick minute. In my practice, I differentiate between what's called acute pain and chronic or systemic issues. Acute pain is really easy to spot. Like, for example, you're walking down Main Street, USA, you trip over the trolley tracks and you get an ankle sprain. You start to limp, or you need some sort of ankle brace to keep you upright and walking confidently. Everyone can see it and everyone can sympathize with it, but invisible handicaps, on the other hand, like autoimmune diseases, we're talking things like early stages of ALS, rest in peace, Eric Dane, fibromyalgia, POTS, or even the side effects of chemotherapy, like what happened to my aunt, those affect the body's energy systems and the nervous system, things that you don't necessarily see, especially early on in the diagnosis. You could think of your body like a car. A visible disability is more like a flat tire. It's pretty obvious what's going on and obvious what needs to be fixed. An invisible disability, on the other hand, is like having a car where the fuel tank leaks, the engine overheats if it idles too long, and the electrical system shortens at random. The car might look pretty on the outside, but you won't be able to go down the road like 10 miles without something breaking. When someone with an invisible illness is at Disney, they're managing more physiological load than you can even imagine. To them, waiting in a 60-minute ride queue isn't just standing. For someone with POTS, or postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome, where standing for more than 10 minutes can raise your heart rate by like 30 beats or more, people with POTS, their heart rate can skyrocket to 140 even though they're resting in a standing position, like just standing still. For someone with chronic inflammation, the sensory overload of the parks might trigger a pain sensation that feels like their volume was turned up to 11. In the clinic, we don't assume, we ask. If a patient walks up to me and their gait pattern looks normal, but they tell me that their pain level is at an 8 out of 10, I don't point to their legs and say, "But you walked in here just fine." I dig deeper. I ask more questions. I make an effort to actually understand them. But in public, it's a little different. I mean, most of the time, we don't even get the chance to dig deep with someone else. We're literally just walking by them. We expect to see some sort of flat tire of someone with a disability, but when we don't see it, we judge the driver. Okay, I want to bust 3 huge myths right now. These are things I hear whispered in lines while at Disney, or even in some Disney-related Facebook groups. We just need to clear the air. The first myth is, if you can stand up to hug Mickey, then you don't need a wheelchair. This is a massive misconception about ambulatory wheelchair users. Most people who use wheelchairs part-time can walk short distances, sure. Like my aunt, she was able to walk a little bit. She was able to stand. But she could not walk 20,000 steps around World Showcase without severe blistering and exhaustion. Using a wheelchair to get from point A to point B so that you have the energy to stand up and enjoy point B isn't faking it. It's energy conservation. It's smart. Okay, myth number 2. Using DAS or an ECV is an unfair advantage. Let's be real here. Nobody asks to be in a position where they need some sort of accommodation. DAS, or Disability Access Service, does not skip the wait, FYI. Per Disney's website, DAS does not provide immediate access to experiences, but rather allows guests to request a return time for a specific experience that's comparable to the current standby wait. It just changes where you wait so you don't stand in a physical queue that your body can't handle if you have that sort of disability. On the other hand, an ECV, or an electric scooter, isn't a front-of-the-line pass either. It's a heavy, cumbersome machine that if you use, you have to navigate it through crowds of people who tend to walk right in front of you. ECVs allow people to participate, not dominate. All right, myth number 3, the "I am not sick enough to use help." This is one that really breaks my heart. I see so many moms, dads, and even grandparents that are suffering in silence because they don't have a diagnosis or a cast or something that is overtly obvious that they have a disability. They think, well, I can just push through. It's for the family. Or they say, I can't show that I'm weak to my own family. That leads us to our action plan. Make sure you save this episode before your next Disney trip, because here is your 3-step guide to handling these invisible barriers at Disney. That's whether or not you have an invisible disability yourself or you encounter someone with an invisible disability at the Disney parks. So, first is the audit stop. That is, stop auditing others. We're very quick to judge someone when we see them in the Disney parks with a scooter and then they get up to walk briskly to their ride. I don't blame you because, quite frankly, it's an automatic knee-jerk reaction where we see two things that don't look like they go together at all. In fact, they look like they just contradict each other. But the next time you catch yourself in a judgment mode, I want you to switch instead to a mode of curiosity. Remind yourself, I don't know their story, and I don't know their pain. Change the narrative in your head from, they must be cheating the system, and instead switch it to, I don't know their story or their pain, but I'm glad they have some sort of tool that lets them be here to enjoy the magic. Step 2, stop auditing yourself. This is the most important tip I can give you as a doctor of physical therapy. Don't wait until you are in agony to use a mobility aid. Don't wait until you've collapsed to ask for some sort of break. If you know you have some sort of issue, like a knee issue, back issue, low endurance, please rent that ECV before the pain starts. I recommend renting from some sort of third-party vendor. That way you have the ECV ready at your resort, on the bus, and then at the parks. If you rely on in-park rentals, you might get there and find that they might be sold out, or you might have a long walk or a long trek to the bus stop at the front gate without help. And the third step in this guide is to use the traffic light system. Basically, listen to your body. Now, I go more in depth with this topic in episode 2 of Happily Ever Active, how to listen to your body so you won't overdo it and hit the wall. But for a quick overview, green light, you feel good. Keep moving, keep going. Yellow light, you might feel a little fatigued, a little pain, maybe a touch of a twinge, a little tightness. Be cautious, but keep going. And then red light, you're in pain. It's hard to keep going. You gotta take breaks. Most people tend to wait for the red light to actually take a real break. As a doctor of physical therapy, I am telling you, start taking more frequent rest breaks if you're in the yellow light. If you treat the symptom at the yellow light, you avoid the red altogether. But if you ignore the yellow, it'll feel near impossible to dig yourself out of the hole that a red light will end up leaving you in. And look, I know that knowing what to do is a lot different from actually doing it. Maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking, Steven, I have an old injury, or I have chronic back pain and I am terrified that a 5-day Disney trip is going to completely wreck me. You do not have to guess your way through this. I still have a few open spots left in the second cohort of my one-on-one Disney prep, rehab, and strengthening program. It's specifically designed for burnt-out parents planning a big Disney trip who want a personalized plan to address your biggest weaknesses so that you can walk more, hurt less, and enjoy the magic. A realistic, sustainable park plan that actually includes rest while still letting you experience the things that matter the most to you. And most of all, it includes accountability. So that way you can follow through and be consistent in taking action towards your goals, instead of just hoping your body magically catches up. If that sounds along the lines of what you need before your next trip, make sure to check the show notes for the link to schedule your discovery call. All right. That's it for today's episode. If you love what you hear and you want to learn more, I encourage you to head over to fitforthemagic.com, where you can find your free guide, 15 must-have items for a pain-free Disney trip. And of course, please leave a rating or a review in your favorite podcast app if you enjoyed the show. This helps me tremendously as I move forward with new episodes to come. I hope you'll tune in to learn more on how to have a pain-free, soreness-free, exhaustion-free vacation so that you can make magical memories with your loved ones.